Her Mandy's voice.
It's Mandy. Well, you'll see.
I was like, does Mandy's voice sound like the Google Assistant? Cause...
It doesn't hear her, and so it just speaks what she says.
Oh,
it doesn't respect her.
Oh, that's amazing. Sorry.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. I have to run help with Baby Roo real quick, so take it, Ashley and Christian.
That was one of the meanest things I think he's ever done to me.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah, that was pretty whack.
That's okay.
Hi, everybody. Gotta go.
Okay, what does he usually ask? How was your week? What were your scores? He asks that once we start recording, I think.
Well, you didn't do the intro. You got to do the intro.
No, this is just vamping. This is just...
Oh, are we vamping? Okay. Yeah. I can vamp.
Because he didn't play the music and stuff, did he?
I have no idea. But
no, yeah, and he's not. We're not like podcasting. We're just live streaming.
Okay.
So
vamp. Yeah.
Christian, who was your biggest disappointment of last week, on or not on your team?
Well, that's part of my podcast.
Am I giving away your podcast notes? Okay. Mine, I think, was Cucho.
Oh yeah. I was going to talk about that too.
I just
podcast content.
Yeah. Just generally, I was surprised, but gosh, I feel like there was someone else.
Oh yeah, let me go through my list. There were a lot of disappointments.
Who just so there was someone else I didn't take, but other people did. Mukhtar, maybe. What did Mukhtar do?
I was once again really disappointed with Philadelphia blowing a clean sheet at the end of the game.
Sure. You know who else really surprised me and pulled a 2 last week was Carlos Heel.
Oh yeah, well.
I know that lineup was a little, but from the mid up, mostly normal. You know, a 2 for him, so rare. And Mukhtar also. I mean, I know Atlanta just dominated them, but a 2 from him was pretty surprising.
I mean, yeah, Mukhtar. I knew Mukhtar was going to blank. I like Reid mentioned it last week on the show, like in chat. You know, this is Christian's like trigger word is Mukhtar away.
Yeah.
And it's true because he's been awful.
Yeah. I didn't think, but minutes played. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, blanking is in like not producing. I'm not. You can sure, but minutes played for both those players is always a surprise for me, no matter what road game it is. Just 2 points is crazy.
Yeah, I suppose.
But who else? Miami posting a shutout.
That just tells you where they get most of their bonus points from. I suppose. I mean, passing and recoveries and stuff
Blaine's
like that.
not here, so I'm assuming you didn't. None of us talked about it, but I will also say, Sporting Kansas City having a
they had
goal route and shutout was
that was a must win for them. I think
definitely surprising to me. Not that I consider San Jose to be this like unbeatable, Yeah,
but they're usually better than that.
Yeah, but that was definitely.
I was asking Cam, you really think that they can, pocket Espinoza? And he's like, yeah,
yeah,
it's gonna be one of 2 guys, and Denbei or who was the other guy? Shoot, I'm blanking on him. Their other left back, but anyway, the one that's not named Ben Sweat.
Sure.
But anyway, yeah, he was really confident. He seemed pretty damn confident about that. I was almost gonna kind of give him crap about it.
You can't.
Yeah, right.
I was also kind of surprised to see Houston repeat their midweek performance. Do you know what I mean? Normally, a team doesn't beat the same team twice the same way.
Yeah, I think that's a myth. I honestly think that's a narrative that people buy into.
Sure.
Sorry about that. Baby Roo tripped and fell and hit his head on the corner of the wall. So.
Oh, baby.
Yeah, had to say that. So, all right. Have we been vamping?
We just vamped. We didn't do anything.
Vamp. What's going on?
I mean, we were talking actual things, but we were just vamping.
All right. Well, that's good. So, hello, everybody. Hello, Gene. Hello, Eric. Hello, Scott. Nice to guys have you here. It was Ashley and Christian priority covered. Hello, we are here, MLS Fantasy Insider. Ready to talk about round 24 preview. It should be a good one. It's massive. It's so massive that Ashley was like, hey, I don't have time to do the rundown this weekend. It's massive. So you should be sure to make time to do that, Reid. And I was like, good call. Good call.
I love doing the rundown. You know that.
I do know that. And you do so good. Such a big help. But yeah. Yeah, sometimes you get, but I mean, to be fair, even when I was just in Discord and said, hey, guys, the episode's starting, it's 9:45, someone goes, 9:45 what? And I was like, Eastern Standard Time. They're like, oh, okay. Wait, what time zone am I in? So,
yeah. I just learned 2 weeks ago that Reid and Blaine are in different time zones, you guys. Absolute mindfuck. Absolute mind blown.
Completely blown. But anyway, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. If this is your first time joining us, we do come to you pretty much every Monday with MLS Fantasy, the official MLS Fantasy game. I don't know if there's any other sub-unofficial fantasy games anymore at this point, but we're here giving little tips and tricks about the main game. I guess we do have a few little a la carte things that pop up ourselves, but every week we're doing this pretty much consistently unless some weird things happen, and especially on these double game weeks where things are starting on Wednesday, we are trying to come as soon as we can. So please do, if you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. It helps a lot, and we look forward to having you back again. So hello everyone in chat. Now that we have that out of the way, we already have the recording starting, so we will get started with the intro for the regular episode. Oh, we don't have it brought to you by, so any quick recommendations?
Oh, that's my fault. I feel like I always take a pass at it.
We were vamping.
We were.
Well,
I even have vamp mood lighting.
Yeah.
you do have vamp mood lighting, but none of that helps the brought to you by. So that's
my brought to you by instinctually is always about Messi, so I'm just gonna take myself out of it.
I mean, I don't feel like we can really do that.
I feel like I am Apple TV at this point. I only talk about Messi.
You are Apple TV. Gregorian back heels.
Georgian back heels.
Oh, sorry, I don't have my glasses on, so.
The other Georgia.
The other.
Which I assume he's talking about in the country. I've never heard that expression. Georgia back heels. Well, I mean,
sounds
like you could think about Georgia back heels as in Georgia the state, like if you're square dancing or something.
Sure, I like that. Atlanta.
He is talking about the state of Georgia, and Saba must have backheeled a goal or something. I didn't see it because Atlanta's dead to me.
Sure.
Atlanta is dead to you.
City?
Well, yeah, pretty much. Sorry, guys.
I'm a fan.
It's all good. Well, no, don't worry. I'll do something. So, all right, let's us get this a going.
I have a heart out, so.
Oh, wait a second. Here's say something about Savarese getting fired.
Oh, we covered it last week a little bit.
Oh, you did? Mm-hmm. Oh, I missed the first part. Sorry.
Okay.
Well, I talked about it. That's who else
signed on later.
It's okay. Hello and welcome to episode 31 of the MLS Fantasy Insider, our preview of round 24. This episode is brought to you by the amazing Patreon supporters of MLS Fantasy Insider. Yes, it's because without you all, this would not even happen. And no, I'm not just kidding. That is actually what this is brought to you by. A for real brought to you by this week. I'm your host, Reid Connolly from MLSFantasyBoss.com, and tonight I'm joined by my partner in fantasy, Ashley Savage. We'd also like to welcome our special guest, Christian Ward. How are you all doing tonight?
Great.
Lovely.
So happy to have you all here. Blaine could not be with us tonight because he's his daughter starting back to school and everything's crazy and his life is crazy, and so he made a big deal about like my life's crazy, but I'm still going to make the episodes at the beginning of the season. And Ash and I were like, just commit to one a month and we'll get things planned around you. And he's like, no, I got this. So we'll see. But it's good. Yeah. We've got Christian here. It's all going to be good. We have a massive double game week coming up to talk about, so we are glad that you are here to join us. The social media is out. Please do like and subscribe, and please do share that if you're just joining us for the first time. It's fantastic. Those of you listening to us on the stream, you can catch us on YouTube on Mondays around 9:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and of course on your favorite streaming platforms. So we do appreciate liking and sharing that content as well. I'm going to open the round with just a quick little update. I don't know how many people this impacted, but I did get tagged with this earlier today, late yesterday, however hours work. And apparently there was a little bit of a problem with some of the former Colorado players who were transferred to their teams, their new teams. I don't know if anybody here, if Christian, you or Ashley, got hit by this. But apparently some of those players were listed as not playing, getting hit with the bye week, and then not transferring out when they were able to. And so some of the former Colorado
got
players
locked, right? It was like they locked.
Yeah, they got locked with their old team, and it really messed some things up for some players. And so, I mean, personally, I don't know why people had Barrios in their team to begin with, but
very, very good point.
It's
very good point.
But that's just me. But no, for real. So I know that Skylar got tagged in some of these messages that I was tagged in as well, and I know that I spoke with him, and they are working. They being the FanDuel E-type people who run the game are working to get a solution in place before Wednesday when games do lock. So don't worry. There is people are working on trying to get at least your auto ruse to work with that. So it is coming. But yeah, for the few people who that might have impacted, that is definitely being looked at. Thank you for bringing it to their attention, and thank you for not thinking I could do anything about this. So I really appreciate just like, hey Reid, this is happening, just so you know. I appreciate that, because I can't do anything about those sorts of things. So but I am sorry that happened to people. I know how frustrating it can be when the mechanics of the game don't work. But it always helps for the game mechanics to actually work when you are paying attention to the game. And so we're going to jump right into our expectation versus reality. And I'm just going to be honest with you, for mine, I got 132. I'm not happy about this. I am mad about my score, and it is all my fault. And it is because I got mad, as Ashley was witness to, about Open Cup, and completely checked out after the Open Cup game and didn't even look at the LAFC lineup. Forgot that I hadn't had Bouanga captained, and I did not get an LAFC starting defender to actually play. And I was just like, you know what? It is my own fault, but I'll just chalk that one up to passion, I guess. But so yeah, 132. I got mad. It is what it is. I ended up moving to just having Messi as my captain, and again was still just like checked out because I was just frustrated and didn't see that he didn't start. And I was like, well, whatever. This week is done. Champions League is done. So overall, very frustrating. But still, 132. Won a bunch of head-to-heads. Did have McCarthy come in. Still got 12 points from Messi. Had Almada. Had Bouanga at least, and did some switcheroos to get Alba and Lennon to come in off of my bench. So had a pretty decent bench. Gigi there with 6 who didn't come in. Would have done better than Cucho for me, but had an overall pretty decent team. Just not enough to really do what I wanted to. My expectation versus reality. I did watch the Cincinnati game, and I really expected them to bounce back after that showing against Miami, where they were their worst enemy at times with getting things to be accomplished. But I was worried about not having Nwobodo with us out with the yellow card accumulation. And it took me a second to remember. When I first watched the game, I was like, what is going on with this formation? And I was like, oh, that's right. Nwobodo's gone. I'm so stressed. But it worked. Acosta showed up big and did some things. Kubo came in and did some things. And mostly the reality was Bupenza is emerging as my preferred FC Cincinnati forward option of the two that are there if you're looking for those sorts of things. So good to see Cincinnati still holding strong at home as we're getting near the end of the season. I also want to do a quick shout out about the Montreal versus New England game. I know that we had expected Chionner I know. I looked it up and I forgot already. To be involved in the attack. He's been the best attacking player that Montreal's had. It was a defender who got the goal, but he got the assist as well, which I think is important to point out as we're coming into this double game week right there, with just some possible alternate options. But otherwise, for me, I just kept it very limited into what I was watching because, like I said, I was upset about Open Cup, and I did not try to hide it at all in the week, and Ashley got mad at me multiple times, but it is what it is. So Ashley, how did you do? Everybody else in chat, let me know how you score because I want to see how you all did as well.
Reid tried to tell us in our host group chat that he had turned the game off.
I did.
Or since he tied it up 3-3, and I, as much as a human can yell in caps, I yelled at him to turn it on and then felt terrible. They ended up losing because they tied it up. I was so excited for you, and then whoopsie. I am just the other side of this coin, my friend, and I apologize for that, but I had a great week. I started this week outside of Champions League and outside of the overall rank I normally prefer aim for at the end of the season. I moved up in both. I won all my head-to-heads. I had a 158. My week rank was 48. So, generally a pretty great week for me. One of my more satisfying weeks. I think my lowest pointed player was Reynoso with that 5 that, we're all mad about. I stuck with Puig. I captained Bouanga. I pivoted to Hollingshead. I threw Carranza on my bench. I just liked how Philly stacked up against that DC lineup last minute, so threw him on there. He got an 8. Generally, better choices than I normally make, less tinkering. When it comes to the games, my expectation was that LAFC would get at least one shutout. That was the hope with those matchups. They did, but the reality was Hollingshead once again just being that guy, getting goals and offensive bonus points, which I don't want to say we've come to expect, but we're no longer surprised. He's done it enough for them. So that was good to see. Those points came off my bench. Expectation for Miami Red Bull, I expected Messi not to start, but to come off the bench and score. And I'm not saying that. I think anyone who's listened to me talk about him on this podcast or in real life would know that that was my actual expectation. And he did it because he's insane. And also Red Bull are so lazy in their footwork on that back line. My expectation, and I know Christian will elaborate on this as well, my expectation for the Seattle-Minnesota game was that Seattle wouldn't score any goals. Honestly, I thought it would be very surprising. Not that I mean that more as a disrespect to Seattle's offense than a compliment to Minnesota's defense. That is also a very capable defense.
Not really.
For a good part of the week, I also had Minnesota defense. I scrubbed them out. I'd intended to play them, but because of bench points, I scrubbed them out. And then, come to the game, the reality was that Neymar scored 2 goals and the teams tied 1-1. So definitely not what I was expecting. I think a lot of people were hoping or expecting for some Minnesota shutouts and also some Reynoso points. We didn't get either of those things. And then lastly, Atlanta versus Nashville is a game we talked a decent amount last week. Expectation was for Atlanta to have a generally good performance at home against Nashville. Mukhtar doesn't necessarily travel well. They don't always travel well. A lot of people knew that Zimmerman was going to be out. But the reality was Thiago Almada just absolutely went off. They look like a completely different team after the Leagues Cup break. They're clicking in places that they weren't clicking before. Gigi looks good. Almada went crazy. The new wingers look great. When they beat Seattle, it kind of looked like Seattle was really bad and they were just kind of good. But as we move on, I think maybe they just look really good. So that's definitely something to pay attention to going into this week with all of the doubles.
Christian.
I got a 143. I'm pretty disappointed with that, considering with what I started with. I dropped out of the top 10 overall to 13th, and that puts me 57 points out of first overall with 6 rounds to go. So it was kind of a heartbreaker for me because I had my sights set on that first overall. Dream big,
Yeah.
The the thing that I need to concentrate on is I need to focus on the rounds ahead of me rather than what's already done and dusted. Sure, I can learn from the mistakes I made, but I mean, a lot of this game is just chance anyway. So, anyway, at this point of the season, I think, 6 rounds to go. I thought I was in contention, and the reality of that is probably not anymore. So that's a tough pill. Next expectation was Reynoso. Should have matched the other 10's playmakers scores this week, given their matchup. Even with Blongwane being out, the reality is he struggles to find passes and create opportunities because that offense just doesn't click without Bonji. And, Heath, it doesn't help when Heath is so infuriating to me. He decided to put 2 defensive midfielders on the wings. He started Rosales and Dotson on the wings and sat his 2 wingers. I'm like, what? Who is he going to pass to? Like, this is just going to be cross and pray. And it wasn't even good crosses. I was just so upset by that. Anyway, I shall calm down with my next expectation. Okay, next expectation is Columbus should have absolutely crushed Toronto. In reality, they won. They got the clean sheet, but they scored only 2 goals. Cucho blanked. Rossi reopened his MLS account, and the other goal was scored by Jason Russell Rowe, who nobody had on their team, their fantasy team.
Yeah.
1 goal was unassisted, and the other one was assisted by Schulte. Weird game.
Yep.
Very weird game. My final expectation is that Reid is happy, and the reality is he is so mad.
That's true. That is so true.
That's it for me.
It was. No, I was just upset that I shouldn't be as mad as I was because Miami honestly made their way to the Final Four, but I'm so mad. I'm so mad. At least Nick Hagglund made some redemption and did some good things this last week.
So I logged on to the rundown sheet. There was nothing filled into the rundown sheet except for Reid's expectations versus reality. All he said is, "I'm so mad," period. The rest of the sheet's blank. I'm like, I have to say this. Expectation, Reid is happy. Reality, yeah. Reid is so mad.
He was mad. So mad. It was. It's a very fantasy time. But no, thank you so much, guys, for that. If people have not been paying attention yet, we have a massive double game week coming up. So there's some good information here to take away, and that's going to feed into our player pick section in our third segment. But first, we're going to be giving you the details for that massive double game week coming up in our housekeeping section right after this.
Are we going to do injuries, suspensions, and stuff?
Did we get?
I don't think so.
We didn't.
I can.
He's got a big boy job now, so.
I can do a little blurb. I have some information.
Okay.
I maybe just yellow card watch too.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
Okay. I only know Lucho and
Isaac was kind enough to point out the salient players that are on yellow card watch.
It's just because Ranch has got a big boy job now.
That's right.
That's how it
happens.
happens.
Little boy's all grown up. He's going to hate that I said that.
Yeah, it's okay. He's not here to listen to. All right. Good deal. All right, guys, we got the social out for the middle section of the show. Again, always happy if people want to retweet that to help with our numbers for this time. Scroll. All right, and welcome back for our housekeeping section for round 24. We're going to skip over the league updates because we did that last week, and we don't have Blaine to give us his notes, but it's doing fun. It's really fun, and people are getting really tight near the end of the season, so it's very enjoyable. I moved up to second in our head-to-head MLSFI, so that's fun. But who's going to catch black and red at this point? No one. The important information that you have come to us for the housekeeping is that this massive double game week starts on Wednesday, August 30th, with a whole bunch of games. It starts at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's not quite the normal Apple TV spread that we are used to. It's 7:30, 8:30, and 10:30 games. So we don't have a 9:30 this time, which is okay. You can still have some options for your switcheroos and auto-roos in this first segment. But yes, that is going to be Wednesday that everything starts, that you're going to make sure you have teams set, because there are 25 teams, I believe, if I did my math right, that are on a double game week. After Wednesday, we don't have any weird Friday or Thursday games. We have games on September 2nd, which is Saturday, and that starts at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with New York City FC versus Vancouver, so a little bit earlier to catch some of those teams. And then also the games wrap up on Sunday, September 3rd at 7:30 p.m. with Philly versus New York Red Bull. And then LAFC is also playing after that as well, so just had a couple games on Sunday. But that's the whole spread, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday. Of these 25 teams with double games, New England, New York City FC, and San Jose Earthquakes all have double home games. Interesting little mix right there. Then our double away game teams are Orlando, New York Red Bulls, Vancouver, Columbus, and Colorado. Nobody is on a bye, but we do have 4 teams who are on a single. That is Toronto, DC, Sporting Kansas City, and LAFC. So if you're looking for switcheroo options, you're likely going to want to look to those teams for either the early or later teams, whatever is your preference for setting up your switcheroos and auto-roos right there. This is, as a massive double game week, it's probably going to be auto-roos that you're looking up, and so just make sure you're getting players who do not play so that your auto-roos do work. And with hope, the little flub with the Colorado teams and everybody else will be fixed, so there will be no need to worry about any weird quirks in the system. Probably you're going to be looking at either Toronto or LAFC as your auto-roos, Toronto being my preferred team.
That one's on Wednesday, though.
It is on Wednesday. It is on Wednesday, so that's preferred for me, because I can definitely see that game who isn't going to be, so I know that my player's not going to be there. And since I'm focused more on auto-roos in a big game like this, I'm not so worried about doing some manual switches, so I'm okay if that team locks then, because I'm just more concerned about getting the guys off the bench with the highest points, and I really am about min-maxing with my manual transfers. So that's me. If you want to be able to make some moves, you still have someone. You can have LAFC who plays the last game of the round, so some limited options. You could even go with one of those players if you want to. We may touch on that in our next segment, but it's just your personal preference right there. Normally we have a huge rundown from Ranch Nader at this point, but he's got him a real job now, and so is having to do actual work, and so he was able to get a little bit of an abbreviated thing, but big shout out to Panda for helping supplement for some of the extra content that we have this week about injuries and suspensions. And so I'm going to turn it over to Christian to give us that update.
Sure. First and foremost, a couple of transfers. One confirmed transfer today. Georgi Petrovic is confirmed at Chelsea. He's probably already in London right now.
He was in London for the game on the weekend. I saw him in the stands.
Oh, well, he was confirmed today. The transfer was confirmed by the league, by the team. So he's gone. Lord knows what Revs are going to do. Anyway, the other one is Maxime Chanot. Apparently, something happened in the locker room, and Maxime Chanot is not with the team right now, apparently.
Good update.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at, it's going to be a popular switch from the bench is the New York City defense this week. I would urge you not to do that, because we'll get into it later. Anyway, all right. So the yellow card watch players of note that are on double game weeks that you would be normally looking at are as follows. Lucho Acosta, Ricky Puig, Hector Herrera. I call him Roberto Taylorini, but it's Robert Taylor. Leonardo Campana, Cascante is also on yellow card watch. Keaton Parks, Jose Martinez from Philadelphia. This might actually play in. It may not, though, because his backup is pretty good. He is on both yellow card watch, and there was a tweet earlier today from Jim Curtin that said that he is listed as questionable and probably will be listed as questionable for the entire double game week. Most of the Houston defense is also on yellow card watch. So if you think that, like me, that grabbing a Houston defender could have been a cute play, don't. Because Michael, Escobar, Sviatchenko, all three of those are on yellow card watch. There was one other. Oh, Tim Parker. He's not in this list, but Tim Parker is also on yellow card watch. So that guy is going to be a popular pick, in fact, and he's on yellow card warning. If he does not manage to stay clean that first game, the game you want him for is going to be, there's going to be tears, okay, if you take him, all right? That's pretty much it. I mean, I'm trying to remember if there's anything else.
It's a double, so just line up watch. I mean, these are the types of weeks where it's most important to just check it yourself and not listen to us. But those are some big names on yellow card watch for sure.
Scott says Palacios from LAFC sounds like he's on the verge of a move. I thought that he was out because of.
Don't pick him up anyways. He's not on a double.
Well, I mean, he could be a fallback. I mean, I had him in my team for a minute.
Well, he won't be a fallback if he's not playing, and he's only going to play once at the end of the week. So
clearly, let's see. Oh, okay. Yep, that's about it. Anyway, oh yeah, I was going to add this too. Reynoso. This is part of. I'm going to reiterate this later, but Reynoso is carrying a knock. He's got an ankle injury, and he came off. Not last game, but the game before it, about in the 64th minute, because of that. He ended up playing the full 90 last game, but at one point early in the second half, he tweaked it and he was visibly limping and he wasn't faking it. So just keep an eye out for Reynoso's minutes getting managed by our favorite manager, Mr. Heath. That's it.
All right. Good updates. Thank you so much. And of course, if you are interested in staying up to date with all of the updates as they come in, you can head over to the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord community. Go down to the Fantasy Tools section in our MLS group, and that's where you can find a whole lot of useful information about player stats and stuff from SoRare, and of course, the mega reference that we use each round and is updated by our fantastic community members. The easiest way to find that is to head over to mlsfantasyboss.com/discord to join. It's free, it's fun, and you get to hang out with cool people like Christian and Ashley and myself in the channel. And with hope, I'm not seeing you when someone pings me to go use the band hammer. So it happens from time to time, but it's a great resource. Can't recommend it enough, especially if you're listening to this podcast for the first time. Check out the mega reference. But we have a big double game week coming up, and so I am sure you are all very interested in hearing some of the target players that we have before Wednesday comes along, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about next, right after this. Okay. Get the social ready. So lame that I can't use my little macros anymore with Twitter.
No one can.
I know. I refuse to call it X as well.
Don't do it. Every article I've ever read, it's like X, formerly known as Twitter.
I do like that. I do enjoy that. I told you, my ultimate goal is for like them to have to sell off their assets and sell their name, and to have Threads pick it up and just rebrand themselves to Twitter. But I hate Threads because I can't use it on my desktop, which I'm like, that's super inconvenient that it's like, do it on your phone. I'm like, no, I don't like that. All right. There is the social out. Please do share that again as we get ready to go into our player discussion. Again, thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. So good numbers coming into this round. So feel free to mention your thoughts in the chat. I'll try to pick out what we can while being mindful of our time. So let's keep moving. All right, and welcome back. We're going to talk about our player recommendations for round 23's massive double game week. This is pretty good. I know we were kind of split at the beginning of the show when we were doing our pre-show chat, and you guys have both said this was a pretty kind of difficult conversation. I enjoyed it. I felt like this one was, I enjoyed making my first team here. There were some definite hard decisions for people to make, and I think it was you, Ashley, who said you could talk yourself out of each player that you have in your team. Both of you all said things like that. So really looking forward to the conversation. Those of you in chat, please do put your comments as well. But let's start, as we do every week, with keepers and defenders. Ashley.
Yeah, I want to remind everybody that this is the last week for Champions League. This is the last round. That's going to count something. Obviously, it's not the last round of the season by any means, but it's the last round for Champions League. Final window of Champions League. And I say that as someone barely hanging on to Champions League, so it's quite on the front of my mind as I go into these picks. For keepers, I'm going back and forth between Berkey and Blake. I think I like Blake better. I want to know if Parker's going to play. Why didn't he play against Orlando? That does kind of make a difference for me. Berkey has been pretty consistent when it comes to bonus points, so I'm not going to be able to see that St. Louis lineup before Blake lock. So at some point, I have to just make a decision. Rounds like this are a single keeper round for me. If I wanted to, I suppose you could throw in the LAFC keeper, excuse me, at the end of the weekend. But for me, I got to pick one, and that's what I'm going to go with. For defenders, I think I'm a lot of chalk and a little different. I'm looking at Brooks Lennon. I like him for bonus points. He and I are very close friends now, if you remember from several weeks ago. So I feel obligated to pick him for the rest of the year. Wagner or a different Philly defender is definitely someone that's making my team this week. Rodriguez for San Jose. I'm trying to find different ways to fit the Quakes into my lineups because they have 2 home games and they're against 2 who are now, Christian, don't yell at me, below the line teams. So I think Minnesota is better than where they're at. I think that's the harder matchup for them most likely. But defensively, I think that's a team I want to look at. And then my kind of 2 outflyers that I haven't heard too much of and will probably get a bunch of crap for is Jordi Alba. The fact that he was able to start on that turnaround against Red Bull, I like him offensively. I think he'll go both. I'm definitely hopping on some sort of a bandwagon. I think I also started that bandwagon, so I don't feel too bad about being on it. So I'm definitely considering him. He will be a bench play, just so Christian's head doesn't explode at me making brash, crazy decisions. But I just really want to do it. I almost picked him up on this past weekend because I saw that he was starting and kind of regretted it, even though points worked out for me in my favor. And then lastly, talk me out of it, I'm just considering Glad from RSL. I don't know why. Portland does not impress me. I know they put up 2 against Vancouver. And then hosting Colorado, who generally struggles to score. I know that's technically a derby game. This is also a bench spot. I just can't decide kind of where to land with those 2 because I feel like they're a little off the books. But until I know what's going on with Tim Parker and the fact that, he is on yellow card watch, there wasn't really anybody else that I looked at and thought I had to have. Everyone else for me was kind of a, could work out, might not type of a play. Christian?
So I want to preface my picks by saying 2 things. Parker, thank you, Scott, from chat, is probably on maternity leave or paternity leave rather. I don't know how that works with his contract, but I mean,
yeah,
he might actually play. He might not. Also, there is a hurricane that is on its way to Miami. Kind of watch out for that. It's still in, I believe, in the Atlantic, and it's probably going to hit Miami around the time of the game.
Well, luckily they play in Fort Lauderdale, so.
Well,
it's very
okay,
close. I'm just
Florida.
joking. It's like a 20-minute drive. I'm being a dick.
Yeah. So just keep that in mind. So with that in mind, your Alba pick is, I'm not going to yell at you because I had Collender and Alba on my bench to begin with. And I thought about it for a while, and then I thought, no, because if that game gets canceled, you're on a single game week away to LA, flying probably the farthest amount of miles that you can. So I faded them, but it was difficult. Keepers, defenders, and forwards is so difficult this week. There aren't really any standouts. I chose Berkey. I landed on Berkey as a single keeper, just because of the timing. The timing makes this week very difficult, by the way, because your fallbacks are terrible, and at least on defense, and you don't really have many options. I'm just going to go with like high percentage set piece defenders in Lennon and Wagner. Parker for the bonus points if he does play. I'm not really concerned about the yellow card warning with Parker because he has managed to go 3 games without a yellow card, and I'm willing to bet that he's playing it safe. Now watch, he's going to get a yellow card. And then I'm not crazy, even though they have 2 home games, I am not crazy at all about San Jose's defense with these matchups. Minnesota's a good road team, and they'll score one, I think, they'll bungle a ball in, not because they're talented, but because they do that. So I'm not looking at clean sheets in either of those games, actually. So my San Jose pick is Rodriguez because he tends to earn bonus points and does some Rodriguez things that we like. I thought about others like Gressel, but Gressel has 2 away games. I'm not convinced at all with Columbus on the road for these 2 games. They're not. People think they're great opponents, but great matchups, but I'm not seeing it. So that's my feedback about Columbus, so I don't interrupt anybody.
No, that was going to be one of my questions was what do you all think about Gressel? Because I know that's been a player who I've seen often in some of the initial lineups that we've seen. I don't have
if you take him and bench him and hope he scores an assist from a set piece or something.
I don't have a lot different to add. I think Blake is also my preferred pick for the keeperoo. You have 2 options really to look for here, and that's either you're going to go a keeperoo with 2 double game week keepers, in which case you're going to seed the first team, and if you don't like that first game, you're just going to go with your second keeper and go. So if you're going with Blake, you're pretty much limited to those 10-30 games right there, where you absolutely are limited to those 10-30 games if you want to actually see a full game. And so you're likely maybe looking at Daniel, I think, is the top pick that people are going with. Maybe you'd be looking at RSL if you really want to bet against Portland. But there's been a little bit of keeper swapping with RSL, so I'm not sure if that's what you want to go with there. So most likely people are looking at the Blake Daniel rotation. The other option, of course, is to go with a single game week keeper as your player. And so if the easiest one to do that is going with Carthy with LAFC, because you will absolutely see somebody's entire score before you decide if you want to go with LAFC. That including Blake, who plays that Sunday game at 7:30. So you'll be able to, barring some sort of crazy MLS delay because MLS thing, that would have to be really bad to have a double game week keeper not do well enough for a single game week keeper to be your backup option. I mean, and against Toronto, even though they're on the road, I mean, I feel like that shuts such good opportunity. Sorry. I am going to put my little caveat there right now and say, because of the weather, I'm actually hesitant to get any Florida matchup that has home, which is the Orlando's playing on the road, so it's not a big deal there. But Miami at home is making me not sure about that. And then if I'm only left with one Nashville as a single game week team, I'm not sure if I want them either. So that's impacted some of my decisions right there with players. But the Toronto game and then the New York Red Bulls game seem really good. So I think going with rotating 2 double game week keepers is the best option if you're going to do some kind of keeper, because I just don't see a single game week keeper keeping up this week. As far as the players go, I think you guys have named all the big ones. I of course have Barrial on my list just for the homer and to see what he could potentially do. I will also throw out, if just looking at different options, since we have some little caveats about what's Parker going to do, what's going to happen here. Ashley, you've mentioned the struggle Seattle have had. Why not go with an Austin defender?
I think you could. I try hard not to necessarily always bet against the Sounders. I just haven't been picking them up. Austin's just been inconsistent.
Sure.
It's been hard to really tell. I think then they're going to go to New England. I don't know that that's a super easy game, even though New England's kind of shifting around. I think Cascante would be the clearest choice for sure, but
Hedges maybe.
Believe is on yellow card watch. Hedges is new to their system.
Due to their system, you still have Gallagher as well. So
yeah,
and I'm just throwing them out as potentially. I think they're a potential bench team right there. But I think that's one that you could consider. But you are right. I do worry mostly about that New England matchup for them. So it would see what they could do against potentially a struggling Sounders team right there. This might be a time even for Chicago with Chihos right there. I mean, Vancouver, White did well last week, but they're on the road to Chicago. Chicago is then on the road to DC, who we've not ranked highly for most of the season. Potentially some points there. Again, these are looking at mostly bench options here. I'm just trying to throw out some other names during this DGW when we could see rotations and other players that might fall into the mix as well. You might be able to consider Montreal, but I worry more about their potential. The New York City game could be a good potential option for them on the road, and then I don't know what's going to happen with the Crew. You would think they would get it together even traveling up to Montreal, but again, you could look at some Montreal guys. I think there are definitely options that you have for your defense as well. And you're right. I was going to ask everyone. I asked Christian, what about you, Ashley? Comments on Gressel?
I think that he is a great bench pick this week. We always like him, right? I mean, like, we're not, he looks good in that system. They kind of underperformed this past week. He still got 12 points on a single. I think that the double road always kind of gets in my head a little bit with these double game weeks, but I think for a bench play, Gressel isn't a terrible choice. His matchups are, I mean, not the best. Houston has played a little bit more than normal, but they've been dominant in those games with the Open Cup and stuff, and Leagues Cup. And then Montreal is not the most amazing team, but that's still, going up to Canada and all that stuff. So kind of middle matchups for me, not matchups that make me say absolutely not or like absolutely yes. So I don't think it's a bad shout by any means.
Yep. So yeah, definitely have a lot of options, and it's going to be fun playing. You're really only looking at probably 3 or 4 ultimately, and I will say I do like Rodriguez as well for San Jose because he has been a defensive bonus point monster during this season. And so I would hope that with the 2 home games, that even if someone does get a goal in, which has happened often for San Jose, that bonus point production for Rodriguez could help add up over the round to make him good. Just example, he has 56 bonus points on the year, 54 of them generated from defensive actions and 2 of them from offensive actions. 149 points total. So that is a massive amount of bonus points that he's produced there. So it's the number 2 player after that for just total bonus points is 43, and that's Lennon. So it's a pretty good jump. Let's move on to talking about midfielders. Christian, who do you like?
Well, Thiago Almada was the first person on my midfield stack. I'm on the fence about Messi. I have him in there right now just because, like it's Messi. But that may change with more information. So the third one is kind of up in the air as well. I mean, the thing about this week is like there are so many midfielders that are viable this week. Like last week it was tough. This week there's like 7-8 midfielders that could pop off.
This is what Christian and I were talking about.
Yeah,
it was like I could hear a lot of midfielders names and be like, yeah, you know what, you're right.
Yep, and so like when I'm telling you my picks, like none of them are nailed. Like there's like 8 that I can interchange. So Amada, Messi, I am gonna go bold and start Gazdag, I think. Just those matchups are pretty good. They kind of own Red Bulls. It's not like totally apparent by just looking at it, but just look into it further. You'll see how badly they own Red Bulls.
So why does that come up to you as bold then? Is it just because it's not chalky?
Yeah, because Gazdag is not a set piece taker. He only takes penalty kicks. He doesn't take free kicks. He doesn't take corner kicks. And normally you want to reserve your 5 midfield spots for set piece takers, like 10s, set piece takers, the guys with the most opportunity to score. And so Gazdag is always on the bubble for a lot of people. It makes him a controversial pick. But as we know, he's capable of contributing in other ways. Like he'll assist goals and he'll score his own in the run of play from time to time. But then he also, since he's not a bonus point earner, he will blank. Like he'll get a 3 and he'll make everybody angry that they took him. So that to me is why it's a bubble pick. Normally, so last week I took him, I got 11 points, but he was on my bench. This week I don't have the bench space for a mid, especially with all the mids available. So why am I picking Gazdag? It's because of the matchups and the timing, frankly. A lot of people will have Reynoso there. I will not. I will get into that in a second. I also have Lovin because the guy is lights out. He's got a home game and an away game to Sporting Kansas City. Now, Sporting Kansas City just shut some people out that I did not expect them to shut out. San Jose. I think that Sporting Kansas City is in trouble with St. Louis. Just put it that way. They have a very fast, way faster attack than San Jose does. San Jose's attack is kind of sputtering, to be honest. It's not as effective as it usually is. And so that brings me to my 5th, and that is currently Espinoza. I want to fade Espinoza for that very reason. He's on 2 home games. It sounds crazy because home away in MLS is very important. I don't think it's the most important. I think matchups are the most important. I think home away does, factor in like hugely. But in this case, due to the reasons I just talked about, their attack just isn't clicking. And so I really want to fade him for somebody like Puig or even Lucho. And I want Reid's opinion on Lucho because he's on yellow card watch. And we've been burned in the past by Lucho being on yellow card watch. So we've also been reverse burned by Lucho on yellow card watch, where we've all faded him. He didn't get the yellow card, and he absolutely went off. And all of us are groaning and crying because we didn't have the
I want to say I've never faded him on a yellow card watch week. I've always kept him.
Okay.
Even on the bench.
He has not gone back-to-back yellow cards this season. I don't remember about last season, but he has not gone back-to-back yellow cards this season, which is not what's happening here. And he's only gone 2 games between yellow cards once. So he normally has space between his yellows. I would hope that he might try to keep himself a little reserved so that he can at least be available for the home game versus Orlando for the second half, because we have such a strong home record in front of the home crowd, because then we're on the road 2 weeks. And so that's one that maybe you like, well, that's travel, get some rest. Philadelphia will be a hard game anyway, so it's okay if we drop that one, though. Definite skin in the fight there. But with Pat. But I would feel okay. He's in my team right now. I would feel okay with him for this match. I have him starting. I don't bench mids. I have him starting right now.
I have him benched, if that makes you feel any better.
It's okay to bench a mid. It's not okay to scrub a mid.
Yeah, absolutely. In total.
So but yeah, I just want to say a couple other things though before I move on. I'm sorry. I'll keep it brief. If that hurricane hits Miami, Lucho, Puig, Reynoso are the 3 that I would replace Messi with. So a lot of you probably are wondering, I'm a Minnesota fan. If you've watched the podcast before, you know that. If you've been on Discord, you know that. Big time fan. So why don't I have Reynoso in my team? First of all, I just think there's like 5 or 6 better picks than him. Second of all, the yellow cards notwithstanding, I really, really want to somehow work Puig and Lucho Acosta into my team. Maybe even Gald. Gald is on 2 away games. Gald would be an excellent pick if you think that he will start both, and if you think that he will not have his minutes managed. Those are very distinct possibilities, which is why he's not in my team right now, but I may talk myself into it when I see lineups on Wednesday. I mentioned before, Reynoso's carrying an ankle injury. And I also, look, it's going to take Bongo Cooley and Huangwane to start alongside Reynoso for me to put him in my team and put him in a starting slot at this point. Our team is we are head cases. We have given up. So like, it'll be like past the 75th minute and the opponent will score and either pull ahead or tie, and we will just fold like a cheap suit. Like, our team pouts so much that we just gave up. Like that one time when we were down by like 2 or 3 goals before half, I expected us to come out second half with some, energy, and it was like nothing happened. Like, we don't care. This is a training exercise now. We didn't play any harder. I think that's a coaching problem. I think Heath messing with the lineups like he's doing is a real problem, and I'm off him. I'm off of all of these guys until something changes. It's just not good. I have a very bad vibe about them. And am I biased? Yeah, but I also know them better than most, and that's my opinion. So take it or leave it. I'm fading Reynoso if I have to take him, I'll take him. But otherwise, yeah, no, not until they show some cohesiveness on the field. That's it for me.
Ashley.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm all about Messi. I had him last week. I'm obviously paying attention to the weather. Very hoping that this is the week, we can keep him and have him and start him and play him. Lowen was another clear choice for me. Like Christian said, he had such a productive week in the the pass round, so definitely keeping him in the lineup. Important to mention that Klaus came in off the bench finally. Remember when he got hurt and they said it was a 2-week hamstring situation or whatever it was? Finally back ish. So that makes me like Lowen even more. Mukhtar is someone who went straight into my team, but again, with the weather, if he's a single game week, absolutely not. And just like Christian said, Almada was the first player on my team this week. That last spot for me is currently Lucho. He's currently on my bench. The yellow card watch doesn't scare me away from having him, but it does scare me away from starting him. I've had him every time he's been on a yellow card watch on a double, and it hasn't burned me yet. So I'm hoping I can keep that streak running. But if for some reason the Messi and Mukhtar picks don't work, I think Espinoza, Gald, or Gazdag are who I slot into two of those three if Messi and Mukhtar don't end up going the double because of the weather.
I just found out you could do polls on YouTube, and so we have a poll in chat right now about Messi being in your team.
Okay.
It's fun.
I mean, Hurricane, he's in your team. Like if the word Hurricane hadn't come up, he's in your team.
Yeah, no, that's true. No Hurricane. He's in the team. However, we do know that he will be away coming up when he goes away to
Argentina, but he's going to play.
So there could be some more managing. But yes,
but he's definitely going to play.
No Hurricane in the team, and so the version of the team that I made first is no Miami players and no Nashville players because of that potentially that game. And I just wanted to plan for that because I feel like there is a chance that happens. And
sure.
So I wanted to not be scrambling. Like it would be easier for me to add Messi back than to be like, all right, let's rethink this whole thing of what this is. So I can just swap my number 5 mid for that. For me, the first player added in was Espinoza because I do like him at home. But yet he may be one of the easiest ones for me to swap out as well, kind of like I know Christian was saying, just for who might be there. LA is a little bit tougher. Minnesota is a little bit tougher. But I do like Espinoza at home, been very consistent. I think you guys have touched on all of the main players here. I don't have Messi because of the Hurricane. I don't have Mukhtar because of potentially the Hurricane, and then that would just leave him with one game that I don't care for. And I don't think he makes my top 5 anyway if I get 2 games because of the home away split with just the form that Nashville tends to have on the road. I'm not sure if I want to play with that. There are other Nashville options I'd want to consider first, so he's not really there. Another random name to throw that we've not mentioned, but maybe as a bench play if you're going to do that, is Torres from Orlando. Has been on a nice run of form lately. He could be someone that comes in with some differential points right there if you're looking for that. But otherwise, a lot. I do like that Gald shout. Definitely an MLSFI fan favorite. I think we have to say for Gald, but just super worried about having the minutes managed. That's what I'm super worried about that. And because of that split with Vancouver for when they play, I can't react to it. That 8:30 game on Wednesday, and they do play that 3:30 on Saturday. But it's just I miss so many other teams that are starting at 7:30, and there's just not a lot after that I want to consider for some of those teams. So
if it makes you feel any better, Gald has gone at least 80 minutes both games of every double so far this season.
Yeah,
those are good stats, but I still worry.
I mean, it doesn't mean he's not going to rest one this time.
Absolutely.
Also, I just want to interject. Chanot is gone. He, well, I don't know if it's a reputable source, but they're saying he's just signed something going to France.
Okay.
So take that into account.
There we go. And we had 80% of our participants vote in the Messi poll that said yes, they are planning on taking Messi, which it just makes sense. So maybe it makes your captain choices easy, but we'll get to that section after we talk about forwards, which is right now. Ashley.
Yeah, I felt very confident about 2 and on the fence about the other. The first 2 in my team were Carranza and Cucho, and then I've ended with Gigi as my third striker. I'm still kind of toying with where I want to scrub. I kind of prefer to scrub a striker on a double game week. I know that sounds crazy, but I like having the defenders. I just, it can be a little more hit or miss, but this is another one of those positions. Christian kind of said it at the top two. The forwards are hard, but I could be talked out of probably all three of those guys. Maybe not Kranz. I feel like that's where I am kind of sticking to the most, but that's who I have right now. We'll see. We'll see if they end up there on Wednesday.
Christian.
I have Kranz as well on the bench, Giacomakis on the bench, and I'm actually starting Costa. He's got a decent matchup, a couple of matchups, and he plays late. So that's why he's out there. Otherwise, you're right. I probably would have just put a scrub up there.
Why not? So, yeah, I have Carranza as well. Also thought about Severino with RSL. I think they've got some decent matchups. Not super high on Portland, and also not super high on Colorado as well, so it could be a nice differential there. Don't know if he cracks the top two if you're only going to go with two. I currently also have Bupinza on my bench, and maybe that's too homer. It's one I'm definitely going to be thinking about.
Last week?
No, he scored last week. He's looked really dangerous. Like I said, he has been coming out for goals, and I like his chances. He doesn't tend to go the whole game. He'll usually get subbed out, which is fine. But he's dangerous when he's out there. He tracks back. He's very involved in the plays, and I like his chances with the three men up top as just splitting the danger. And so I think he's the most likely of a forward to be a target for those points. And I know that Atlanta's gotten some clean sheets lately, and so I don't know. And I know Cincinnati can be a little bit leaky, so GG may be the better pick. But that's what I'm juggling between Bupinza and GG right now for that forward. And I have it on Bupinza right now, so we shall see where I end. But I think those are probably the top three. The other one that I would consider if there is a double game week is Surridge. Have really liked what I've seen from him in the Leagues Cup and his potential right there. If there is a Nashville player that I am willing to take a bet on the road, it's going to be him before Mukhtar for me, especially since I think that Miami's defense is leaky, and the same to be said for Charlotte. So I'd love to have two shots with him instead of Mukhtar if I'm going to be bringing in some Nashville offense.
That Nashville game against Charlotte, is that a home game for Nashville?
It is.
Yeah. So that's a great matchup.
It is. It is a great matchup. I question it if it's their only matchup. It's still a good game. Gotcha. But like I said, if they're in, I really like the potential of having Surridge in my team. And at that point, that may have me put Lucho on the bench in this half to see if I'm going to get 5 mids or three forwards to come in. So that's going to be part of the decision, but I like him a lot and look forward to.
One reason to be hesitant about Cincy, that first match against Atlanta, I think, Tristan Muyumba is their new defensive midfielder, and he is the reason why that team is looking very good right now. Well, most of the reason why they're not a shambles. So I'm not sure that Lucho actually is the greatest pick in the world just for that reason, because they're going to be in Atlanta in a hostile environment and against a team that they're probably going to underestimate a little bit.
Maybe since he's got their own defensive midfielder as well, who's been a force. Yeah,
he has. He absolutely has.
He's been a great force too. So that may end up being the trap game this week. Who knows? That could be a 1-1 kind of game that comes in there. So that may be what it is. But no, great talking points, and I think those are all good options to have going into this round. Let's wrap everything up with the big question, and maybe this was the toughest question for me. Easier because of how I approached the team. So who are you looking at as your captain, Christian?
I've got it on Almada. I've had it on Almada since I put a team together. I was thinking about Messi, but then I thought those matchups aren't exactly as good as I think they are. So, yeah, Almada is my guy. I mean, he put up a 24. That's insane.
That was good. That was really good.
And I'm not point chasing either.
Ashley.
Yeah, weather contingency is messy for me. I don't care who he's playing. I don't care. I want it. I want to do it. I think the weather is the only thing that would talk me out of it. Obviously, even if it's delayed, I'm gonna drop him and pull. So I probably won't drop him, but I'd pull the armband. Almada is my heavily seconded choice, but I just want to do Messi. I don't care who he's playing. I think that LAFC game there's gonna be a lot of pressure to make sure the big names play, even though it's a double and a cross country trip. I don't think they're gonna go there and not start those guys. So to me, it's 2 games of weather contingency, at least 60 minutes, and that is more than enough than that man needs. He showed that. So Messi if the game goes, Almada if it doesn't.
So in an earlier version, I had Heel in my team, and I ended up just working him out because I did decide I liked other players better, like Pooch, instead of him. But so at one point I was debating having Heel, definitely having Almada and Messi also in the mix. But you know what? I had honestly discounted Gazdag some at the beginning. I was looking more at some of the defensive options from Philly, and that may be another contender for me. So as potentially going with Gazdag, because I do like that potential, and he does tend to score, and so it's going to come down to which 3 Philly players do you want? Would you like Carranza over Gazdag for that mix? And so who knows? Maybe that's what it ends up being. But in all likelihood, for me as well, it will come down to either Almada or Messi, and if it'll probably be Messi if he is available, just to see what happens. But going to chat real quick just to see. It looks like similar consensus right there with Messi, Almada, some Gazdag thrown in just for a little spice right there. It's going to be interesting. Look forward. Please do check out the player poll that's over at MLS Fantasy Boss Discord right now. It'll be very interesting this week with the quick turnaround. I will try to see if we can post it on Wednesday. Usually with Wednesday games, I don't always post it because it's usually just a few games. But with so many teams playing on Wednesday, I will do what I can to get the player poll out so that people can see that. That's all that we have for the show tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us ahead of this big double game week. Let's talk about the plugs. Christian.
As usual, the Discord community.
Ashley.
I will second that.
You have all week. You have all week to think.
I know. It's the thing I think about the least, you guys.
Well, I'm going to echo the MLSFantasyBoss.com network, so you can check out the articles at Fantasy Boss. You can, of course, get this podcast and also check out the MLS Fantasy Boss Discord. We do also want to wish that everyone who is in the path of the hurricane to be safe. We can talk about it just disconnected because it's through this soccer lens, but it is definitely a very serious event, and so we do hope that all of our listeners here, just the same as we had our listeners out in California as well a few weeks ago, to definitely be safe, and hope everything works out for the best for you during this time. But for those of you who can focus on soccer, yes, the Discord community, MLSFantasyBoss.com/Discord, the easiest way to check that out. Patreon.com to check out how to support the podcast directly. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's an amazing community for those of you who may still just be finding us for the first time this year. There's still a lot of soccer left and a lot of fantasy for us to talk about. And we'll get some programming as well during the playoffs to break down, try to get Skylar on the show, try to get him on a couple times this year, and it's just not worked out, but try to get him to come on just to talk about how this season has gone. Will be, I think, a great breakdown. But yeah, we're looking forward to the big, massive double game week, but who knows what will happen at the end of the day. And until then, as always, good luck.